Hi kids, I'm Miss Debbie, and I am delighted to be with you today reading you an amazing story from this book, I Heard Good News Today. The story we're reading is about the Apostle Thomas. How many of you are familiar with that name? After Jesus was put on the cross, died on the cross, rose again 3 days later, he was meeting with different people, and during that time, the apostles were meeting together, and one of them, Thomas, wasn't sure he believed Jesus rose again. That's why we call him Doubting Thomas. Thomas said, I've got to see the nail prints in his hands, the scars, to believe. So because we read that story in the Bible, if you're like me, I often wonder, did anything good come of Thomas, the one we call Doubting Thomas? Well, the story I'm going to read today is so exciting and so amazing because it tells you what happened to Doubting Thomas. The story is called, I Will Go Where You Want Me to Go, and it happened around AD 39, just a few years after Jesus had gone back to heaven to be with the Father. Here we go. The Apostle Thomas started walking slower and slower. He kicked the dust up with his sandals. Oh, I wish I didn't have to go to this meeting, he thought to himself. The apostles were all coming together in Jerusalem to decide to which country each of them should go to tell the people about Jesus. They were going to pull straws. Thomas wanted to tell people about Jesus. He loved Jesus. He was ready to go to some country to do it, but Thomas was afraid that he would pull a straw of a country he didn't want to go to. Even though Thomas walked slowly on his way to the house, he finally got there, and all the apostles were already there. They all sat down together. After praying together, they pulled the straws. The Apostle Thomas pulled India. Oh no, he cried. It was just as I feared. India? I don't want to go to India. It is far away, and I'm a Hebrew, and they don't speak my language, and who knows, they might even kill me. No, I just won't go. Thomas stormed out of the room angrily, a very, very unhappy man. That night, however, when Thomas fell asleep, Jesus appeared to him in a dream, and he said, Don't be afraid, Thomas. Go to India, and I will be with you every step of the way as you tell the people there about me. Thomas awoke the next morning. He knew Jesus had spoken to him. The Jesus he loved dearly, he had come to him in a dream and spoken to him. Jesus wanted him to go to India. Thomas said in his heart after that, Lord Jesus, I will go where you want me to go. The very next morning, Thomas went to the marketplace to see if he could find anyone that knew anything about India there. He was sure to find people there from many different lands in Jerusalem. As Thomas was walking around, looking this way and that way, he suddenly came across a merchant who looked like he was from a faraway place. What is your name and where are you from? Thomas asked him. My name is Abanus, said the man, and I come from India. The king, Gutaforus, has sent me here to find a carpenter. Thomas could hardly believe his ears. I am a carpenter, he told him. What kind of carpentry do you do? Asked Abanus. Oh, I work in wood, and I make plows, and I make yokes, and I make boats. But I also can work with stone slabs, and I even have some experience in building palaces. You are my man, said Abanus. Will you please go with me to India? It almost seemed like another dream to Thomas. Before he knew it, he was on the way to India. It was a long, long trip in those days. Boats were slow. There were no airplanes. Thomas and Abanus probably boarded a boat in one of the ports of the Red Sea, sailed around Arabia, and finally made it to southern India. Finally, they arrived at the court of the palace of King Gutaforus, and Thomas began his work. Being a carpenter was not the most important thing to Thomas, however. Wherever he went, he was very kind to the poor. He shared his food with the hungry, and he healed many people, just as he had seen Jesus do. He learned the language of that part of India, and he told the people all around him about Jesus. He started and founded many churches. Finally, even King Guttaforus became a Christian. Many years went by. Thomas preached what he knew about God in many parts of India. But one day, another king, whose name was Mistius, came to power. Mistius was very angry when he found that his mother and son had become believers in Jesus. He knew it was because of Thomas. He made a plan to kill Thomas, but he was afraid of the people because they loved Thomas. So one day, his plan included asking Thomas to personally come with him outside of the city for a discussion. As they walked outside the city together, the king had soldiers ready to grab Thomas, take him into prison where one day he would be executed. Thomas knew he was about to die, but now he was not afraid the way he had been years ago when he picked the straw to go to India. On the way to his death, Thomas prayed, "My Lord and my God, you have been my guide and my leader as I have traveled all over India, telling people about you, Jesus. Now I ask you to guide me on to you. I have finished the work you gave me to do." Then the Apostle Thomas was killed. Now, many years later, when missionaries came to India, they were surprised when they found people there who called themselves Thomas Christians. "Who brought the good news to you in India?" asked the missionaries. The people happily responded to them, "The Apostle Thomas did." That's why we call ourselves that name. Children, I want to tell you another quick story. Just a few years ago, hundreds of years after this happened, Miss Debby was in India on a mission trip, and I met a man there who loved the Lord, and I asked him about this story. And he said, "Oh yes, that is true. I am from a family of Thomas Christians." What a joyful day for me to realize the story I had read in here to my children 20 years ago. I believed it when I read it, but then in person I met a man who affirmed this story. Children, I hope you've learned today that when God asks you to go somewhere, He will go with you. His plans are the best plans, and I hope you can say with Thomas, "Jesus, I will go where you want me to go."